Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Blue and Orange, Orange and Blueprints podcast. See that it's only been like four times, but we're here already. Can't believe it, but on Bio City Soccer, we're live and we're here. If anyone wants to comment on your YouTube or Twitter, we're free to interact. It's been last week. It was more interesting to see how this game was going to pan up. So we have today we're going to review the Chicago game, women's national team news, and new signing, and who is this Dash team, and also we're going to also preview the Gotham game. But I'm not alone this time. My boy is back. Diego's back. Say hello to everyone, Diego.
What's up, you lovely ladies, gentlemen, and people? What up, guys? I'm so happy to be back. Third time's the charm for me here at Orange and Blueprints. So excited to be here with Manny. I took a week off because being a student, I had to celebrate spring break and I had to kind of take a week off from literally everything. But I'm happy to be back. I didn't miss any of the Dash action that was happening last week, despite me being absent. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about it. I'm excited to preview the Gotham game and talk about Chicago and everything in between. So let's get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, no, just want to welcome you back and welcome everyone back. So, thank you for all for coming another week here with us. It's always a good thing to talk about. But let's get it started. Last weekend's game of it was a early Sunday game at 2 p.m. at Chicago or Bridgeville, Illinois. The Dash win 2-1, the first win
Mhm.
season, and it happens to be away against Chicago. Goals came from, of course, a bad giveaway from Paige Nielsen for the opening 18th minute. But yet she redeemed herself in a corner kick in the 20 to level it up. And of course, Diego's girl, Maggie, ended up getting the winner. So your thoughts overall before we go into performances, your thoughts overall on the win, Diego.
I thought it was a really good game. I feel like it really proved that this Dash team is certainly a different team than last year. I think Maggie mentioned it in I think it was a post game presser where she said she wants the other teams in the NWSL to look at the Dash as contenders and not an easy 3 points. And I mean, this is a team. Yes, I know Chicago's extremely weak. They've started the season in one of the roughest ways in NWSL. However, they put in a pretty solid performance. I mean, the Dash as well, normally a team that doesn't necessarily possess the ball, had 62% possession and had overall a good amount of shots. I remember it being a 15, um, uh, overall 15, I believe.
15 shots to
Um,
11 shots to Chicago.
yeah, which is much higher than you would see from the Dash last season. You would like to see a little more conversion offensively. I feel like that was a little bit lacking in Chicago. But Page, I mean, coming up clutch, especially after that error in on the defensive side. I mean, that's exactly what you need out of a leader, somebody that can pick themselves up and really do that. But Maggie, I mean, what a player. I mean, I before the season started, I was on this show literally hyping her up so much, and everyone here in New York and like all of the people that I know here were calling me crazy. And I was like, trust, trust, trust. And I think my efforts are getting paid off, which I'm really happy. But most importantly, she's getting on the score sheet. And I believe this is the first time uh she scored a Dash player has scored 2 goals off the bench in her first 2 games.
I believe so. I think the NWSL tweeted about it as
Yeah,
well. I think if I had give me a moment, continue talking. I'll look for it right now.
but I believe like this is historic on all parts. And for Maggie, this is great for her. But this also just comes to show that Fabrice's thoughts about the team before the season during preseason have come to fruition. he laid the guideline that this team is the deepest dash squad we've probably ever seen, and the depth is so competitive that he doesn't know what starting 11 to put up because everyone is generally so talented. And a player like Maggie Graham coming off the bench and doing starter level things, I mean, that shows how deep this squad can really be. And when you get the attack going, I mean, Yaz hasn't even scored a goal. There goes my golden boot prediction. But but if you see a player like Yaz not scoring and the dash winning, that's a great sign.
Yeah, as well. So the NWSL, to go back to your point, said that Maggie became the fifth player to score in her first two NWSL games, and being the third player to do so, but being the first player to do that coming off the bench.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Insane stuff. Honestly.
yeah, I know. What was that? I was listening to another podcast, and they were just the only person that were raving about Maggie was like, "Oh, watch out, watch out, watch out." So I was like, well, I think national media attention. If you have someone from national media saying that, watch out for Maggie, I think it's like, okay, everyone's going for that. But I think the game for Chicago overall, I think it was more what we were looking for, expecting.
Hmm.
I think from the Spirit game, you saw, I think where we were just in a blank canvas. We were like,
Hmm.
okay, we don't know how this game is gonna go out, how the team's gonna play, and you saw how they play and their performance. Maybe not the result they got, but you saw performance. And it's like if they can translate that to a poor Chicago team,
Hmm.
like you said, they didn't convert most of their shots, but they still were dominant in the possession and the shots.
Hmm.
You know, it just shows more. Okay, this team can go far about it. Well, I just want to get your thoughts, Diego. I think out of the first two games, what player has impressed you the most, other than, of course, Maggie?
Yeah, I like Maggie, but I think this is something that's been talked about in Bayou City soccer as a whole. Avery Patterson has been a stellar player. I think offensively we always knew what she could bring. I feel like we always knew her skill and um like Avery, as good of a player as she is, she's an equally good of a person, but she's now an equally good of a defender, which is something that I felt like in order for her to take that leap that everyone was hoping for her to do is a little bit more defensive awareness because she's always had that gritty mentality. She's always had the effort. It's not of a lack of trying. It was just a little like adjustment from being a rookie in NWSL, and she's made those leaps, and I think she's not only become a player that has been good in NWSL, but she's been crucial for this Dash team in ways that maybe we haven't seen since Barb last year, since maybe that one season that Maria Sanchez had, maybe even going back to when Salmon was playing and scoring goals and all those Dash players of old. I think we haven't really seen a player that has played such a pivotal role. And the only player that I can really pinpoint that to has been Jane Campbell. But I mean, when we've talked about this before in previous shows, when your goalkeeper ends up being that pivotal player, that's a bad sign for your team. And so for it to be someone on the outfield, I think that's great news.
Yeah, exactly. I think, see, of course, Maggie steals the headlines because of her goals and the rookie, I think,
Hmm.
but I think now we'll speak more of this, about Avery a little bit more, but I think now the whole league knows Avery now. I
Hmm.
think I think last year it was kind of harder on her to get noticed because she was on a poor dash team,
Hmm.
being a rookie and maybe not putting the numbers like an assist or goals that you would want it in your first season, but sure her impact on the game was, you know, huge. So playing almost all the games last season and then continue on this season. It was
Hmm.
funny because Dustin said that jokingly, but seriously, he was saying like Avery Patterson is what Griffin Dorsey should have
was
been.
was
It was
supposed to
supposed to
be.
be
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
Dynamo, and it is true. Like they both
it's true.
plays same size, same position, but yet one's more effective. You know.
I
It-
a friend of mine from back home told me that that Avery Patterson is the Javier Zanetti of Gryffindor's.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
you know what? I like that. A player
it,
that can lead, that can attack, but can also be very solid defensively.
yeah,
It's one of the weirdest player comparisons I've ever heard.
yeah,
I don't think those three players will ever get mentioned in the same sentence ever again. But
yeah.
it was exactly how I felt when it comes to watching a player like Avery perform in these first two games.
Yeah, I think being a player like Javier Zanetti, I'm a huge people knows I'm a huge Inter fan, so
Hmm.
I know how pivotal he is, and I
Yeah,
think the worst part about him is like he goes unnoticed,
yeah,
but yet he plays a pivotal part, and the same thing as Avery as well. You know, I think for the first year went unnoticed, but now she's getting the recognition that she
hmm,
deserves, and that's what I like. But I think the players that interested me the most
hmm,
out of these two games, well, this trio, I feel like for some reason Fabrice does this. For the second half, I don't know if you noticed it for Gotham and for Chicago, he likes to sub in Maggie, Evelina, uh, Dujan, and
hmm,
then Delaney Sheehan at the same time, and yet it becomes an exploited team.
hmm.
What do you think of those three combination coming off the bench? Does it prove either the depth quality or just to prove that the role in the team?
I mean, I think it does a little bit of both. I think a player like Dijon is going to be impactful whether you start her or whether you leave her on the bench and bring her on. I think it more speaks to them as a unit. I feel like you would have the same level of production if you end up starting them and having them play for 90 minutes. But the real question is, I mean, is this core ready to play game in and game out for an entire NWSL season starting? And no doubt about it, these players have the talent to do so. I mean, we've seen it. Dujan, Sheeran, Sheehan, and Graham have played genuinely brilliantly. I've
Mhm.
especially loved Sheehan's ability to position herself. She's where nobody else is, which is an incredible gift to have as a midfielder. And I mean, you've seen it. Maggie's also positioned herself to score in places where I mean no one else really were, and she just picked up easy finishes to, you know, get herself some good goals. I think this is not necessarily a like conversation of like, oh, this means we're gonna win the league because we're the strongest team in the second half because of our squad rotation. It's
Mhm.
more of these 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 players are extremely talented. But we don't know whether they can last an entire season starting as a trio. So
Mhm.
I think Fabrice is really smart for testing this out early because come playoff time, you're gonna see Barb go down with an injury, and you're gonna ask yourself, what am I gonna do? You're gonna see players I mean, Diana's been on and off. She just got taken off the injury list, but you're gonna see those kinds of moves within your team, and you're gonna need a little bit of that spark, a little bit of that consistency. And so for Fabrice to be able to do it early on in the season and give these young players and newcomers an opportunity to gel together, I mean, I think it speaks more to Fabrice than it actually does for the players because I don't remember who said this. I think it was Avery, but she said the quote was basically that Fabrice is the best tactician that she's ever seen, and they've only known each other for like 3 months. I think this is the proof in the pudding. Like this is the kind of moves that we expect to see from a seasoned head coach that knows what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think like you said, I think most of the parts, I think the players have a good depth, a good quality.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I think just the rotation itself, it's provided a lot of, I think, teams on their feet. I think you have those team players, great players coming off the bench. I think teams will have to adjust their thinking. Okay, these players are going to start, or these players coming off the bench to handle the opponent's game minutes as well, to
Hmm.
handle as the Dash K2s moving forward. I think my question for you, I think coming from these two games, both three goals, the Dash have scored three goals, two from Maggie and one from Paige Nielsen, none from the front line. Is that
Hmm.
a concern from you, or is it just early in the season?
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I think I don't really see this as a concern because
Mhm.
I mean you saw last season. It seemed like the front line were allergic to scoring goals. Um, I think I want to wait a little bit more to press the panic button. We're getting goals and we're getting results, and we should be happy for that because I can't really see a world where Yaz doesn't get her first goal against her old club or in a couple of games. Because also, again, Deanna hasn't played yet. We don't know how she'll fit into the squad. We don't know whether she's going to be a full inclusion in Fabrice's team. Barb as a center forward, I thought was a little interesting. I thought that was a little interesting for somebody that played as a midfielder. I understand that we are missing a proper number nine, but
Mhm.
I just found it a little bit interesting. I don't necessarily think that was the best position for her. But again, that brings up the question of who who would we play for that as that number nine.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't think we should press the panic button just yet because again, we don't have a number nine yet. Uh, I think maybe switching Yaz to be our number nine and have a player like Barb on the wing to provide a little bit more service, but that doesn't really inspire her defensive skill and her tenacity as much just because we're isolating her on the wing. It's a lot of question marks that Fabrice has been constantly having to answer, and I think he's doing a pretty good job. And so I would say hit the panic button when Diana comes back and we're still not scoring.
Yeah, I think like you say, it's just very early days. It's very early things. Diana is still, it's clear to play, but I think, as you see that she hasn't started, well, come off the bench for Chicago game. I think, they're just looking forward to see how she handles her minutes, how she handles everything.
Hmm.
But I think at the moment it's still a good sign. But it's very early for, dash season. So it's pretty good looking forward. Moving on, I think this gives a result. It's a good for to leap forward for the upcoming games.
Hmm.
I think who else knows the Dash's result is Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes called up three Dash players for the women's national roster against Brazil. So the players are, of course, Jane Campbell, most likely the starting goalkeeper,
Hmm.
Yasmin Ryan, and Avery Patterson for her first cap. How do you feel? I think, Diego, seeing that, I think before going this season, I think most likely with Jane will be the only one
Hmm.
in a U.S. women's national team. Now that you have three Dash players representing in the U.S. squad, how does it feel now, maybe as a fan or as a media, knowing that Dash are getting more recognized in the
I
national
mean,
scale?
I think it's certainly good. As a media person, I can definitely say that this will bring so much more attention to the Houston Dash. I mean, you watch the women's team, the women's national team here in the U.S., and you see the crowds, you see the fans, you see all these people that come to see them, and come club season, all of those same fans are going to be like, "Oh, I want to see them because they were on the national team." Whereas maybe for the men's team, there's a little more of the opposite, where you see a player shine for their club and then go play for their country, and so people are like, "Oh, I want to see a Brazil game, even though I'm not Brazilian, because I know Neymar's playing. I think a player like Yaz, I mean, I'm just really happy that we signed a player of her quality. If you would have asked me if we were capable of doing something like that, I would have thought you were a little crazy. But for us to be able to have a player like that and not play at her best and still winning, I've said that 3 times. It's a gift. But to talk a little bit about Jane and Avery, which are like now getting or Jane's been around on this Dash roster and Avery's about like figured it out. I think it's good because it really shows that there are things within the Dash that are working. I think what we've been asking from the Dash for years at this point has been, can you produce something that works? And getting your players called up to their national team is a sign that you as a team, as a culture, as an organization works to some degree. Because I mean, you mentioned it perfectly. It was difficult for Avery to shine her rookie season despite her stellar play because of such a weak Dash team. And I mean, arguably that was the same for Jane. I mean, you're not going to be able to save every goal. You're not a superhuman. And so if you are naturally receiving 50 shots a game, you're going to concede some. So I think now that you're taking the steps in order to create a winning culture, you're going to see these players that normally would have been overlooked being given that spotlight. And I'm beyond happy for Avery, beyond happy for Jane, beyond happy for Yaz. That all three of them, I think, deserve it. I would love to see Avery start in that game against Brazil. I don't think that's going to necessarily happen, but I think she's certainly starting level, and she will start for the U.S. When it's her time to shine.
Yeah, I think as well. I think when it comes to as well, uh, merit is due. These players has been producing uh, despite having a bad season last year and continue to produce now. Yeah, I think as well, it's all these call-ups came
Mm-hmm.
up at the right time, or things happen at the right time for them to call up. For instance, Jane Campbell, Alyssa Nair retired, and
Mm-hmm.
for some reason her second backup was Casey Murphy is no longer in the scene for some reason, and so
Mm-hmm.
who other than those two who had more international experience is Jane Campbell, you know, and so perfectly she slots in, and I think Yasmin Ryan as well perfectly, the triple espresso. Two of them are out for personal reasons, and
Mm-hmm.
she slots in. I think Avery as well, looking for new fullbacks. You know, getting
Mm-hmm.
moving away from players like Krieger. Who's been a good player, solid, but trying to look for new players. And I think interesting. Emma Hayes on her press conference mentioned that she was planning to use Avery as a left back for
Yeah.
Brazil. So I was like, that's interesting. That's
Mm-hmm.
but I think if a coach like Emma Hayes, who has coached huge teams and brought success to huge teams, sees that Avery can fill another position and still perform, it just shows the potential that she has, to
Yeah.
succeed. And I think she will have two shots against Brazil. Brazil, they will play one on Saturday, another one on Tuesday against the same both Brazil. So she will have at least the chance to at least start one or even come
Mm-hmm.
up to the bench for quality of minutes. So they're both friendlies. They're both good. So I don't see either Avery. So I think for sure locked in is Jane Campbell and Jasmine Ryan. But
Yeah.
Avery, I think she might start one, but it's really hard to know with
I hope
national
she
team.
does. I hope
Yeah.
she does.
So we'll see about that. So, but it's good news for the Dash on that regard. I think one thing Fabrice mentioned in his press conference today, it just shows the change in culture. Like you
Mm-hmm.
were mentioned, change in culture here in Dash is not only that we are stepping up to attracting players,
Mm-hmm.
but also developing players
Yeah.
like Patterson and now Maggie. So it's like the Dash has stepped up on that. And
Yeah.
as well, the Dash did had step up. Yesterday was the deadline day. You thought there was going to be no news and anything, but the Dash did step up to sign a new defender in Rebecca from Cruzeiro, which is interesting. She's 19, only played 8 games, according to the the stats that we're able to find, because for some reason, the women's Brazilian league is not very highly statted at most,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
yet she has 1 goal. Played most of the youth time in the youth Brazilian national team. Interesting note to note for Brazil, for the youth national team, she will play as a six, but for her club, she will play as a defender, either at a center back or left back. So you could say a versatile defender that can play a multiple position in the back. Uh, with the limited information that we have about her, Diego, how confident or how exciting are you with this signing?
I'm excited. I mean, the last time we bought up a young Brazilian defender, we've now sold her for the most expensive outbound transfer in Dash history in Tarsiani. She was, I think, shortlisted for the Ballon d'Or. Um, I think gold can strike twice. I think lightning can strike twice. Um, I just really like the thought behind this signing of you're not just signing players to just look at what your roster is and just patch it up, but you're actively seeing how you can develop this core into the future. Fabrice has gone on record in most of his press conferences that there, in every game that we've played, there has been defensive mistakes and mishaps, and he's wanted to patch them. And arguably, where we're at our weakest when it comes to our squad depth is our defense. If Paige Nielsen goes down, I don't really see who can fill her shoes. And I think somebody like Rebecca can definitely at least carry that load a little bit because yeah, a play like we don't necessarily know how she plays, but a player that can play as a center back and as a six, you can make the bold assumption that she's really good on the ball, that she's really good and pushing the ball forward, pushing the play forward. So with all the things that we can assume about a player like her, it fits exactly what the Dash have been struggling in these first 2 games, which has mostly been their defensive stability, but also pushing the ball forward with when they counter. And so I think this is a huge, honestly, a grand slam of a signing.
Yeah, I think despite I think uh, the 3 goals that the Dash were conceded, I think the goals they conceded were simple defensive mistakes. They're not
Hmm.
like huge defensive flaws, like leaving the wide guy. It just happens to moments. Uh,
Hmm.
Page was distracted on her goal. The second one from Ashley Hash. I think it was
Hmm.
hard to tell because I think that ball was already in before she
Hmm.
even tapped it in. And the second one was just a it just happened to be a loss of focus for have to
Hmm.
have golf, because Jane blocked it. It ricocheted. The defender was looking where the ball at and happened to land it on a Gotham player.
Hmm.
To put it in. So there were not huge defensive errors. There were just little gaps of concentration because, of course, they're just the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah.
So it's I think, but having I think this defender and this new player Rebecca into the team. I think what I liked about Fabrice today, his press conference, he mentioned that she is very young, a young player, athletic, but also can play out and very good on the ball, not only in
Hmm.
possession but on the dribble. She ticks a lot of boxes of what we're looking for in those positions. So I think um, I think before I would have been more skeptical of this
Hmm.
signing because of young players. I think one that comes to mind is Paulina Gamalia,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
young Argentinian striker. Well, when the Dash got her, she was a young Argentinian striker, but she didn't really develop here. It was just mostly
Hmm.
just shipped out. But I think now they have a system, they have okay what players are looking for to fit not just only now but all in the future, and
Mhm.
relying on rookies and young players. I think we all forget that Evelina is only 21.
Yeah.
She may have a lot. She had played a lot, but is only 21. Still considered to NWSL maybe a rookie, but she's very experienced about
Yeah.
this despite the player she being. But it's still really good upside and on that as well. And now the time we'll be waiting for, I think Diego's time we'll be waiting for
I'm
the
excited
preview
about this.
the preview for the Gotham game. What's your thoughts on the preview before we're breaking down predictions? How this game will go?
I think it's going to be a 2-0 dash win.
That much?
I think so.
Why?
I think honestly, Gotham has had a really slow start to the season that needs to be noticed. This is
Yeah.
not the same Gotham team that you saw last year, and this is definitely not the same title winning Gotham squad that you saw 2 years ago. I think, yes, they're extremely dangerous. They are extreme. When you have players like Esther Gonzalez and their front line, you're going to need to be at your best. However, I mean, this is a new look Dash team that has had probably more momentum that they've had in the past 5 years. I think when you look at this Dash team, you look at this game as really this is your chance at your first real win of the season, if that makes any sense. Chicago,
Mhm.
you were expected to win. This is a game where you're expected to lose. I mean, if you think about the game against the Washington Spirit, that very easily could have been either a 1-1 draw or a 1-0 win when it comes to the goals that they conceded. And I think you said it perfectly based on like little defensive mistakes. And I think honestly, Gotham getting weaker and Houston getting stronger, I think we might be able to pull off a 1-0 or a 2-0 win. I'm going to be a little bit more pushy and go 2-0. I don't know if I'm going to change my mind about that later on when we put on the predictions, but I mean it's late night, might as well be bold. So I'm going to do 2-0.
Yeah, I think like you said, it's true. Gotham, you gotta also think about a lot of departures from the team. Of course, you have Yasmin Ryan, of course, came here. Delaney Sheehan came here.
Mhm.
You also think about she went to PSG. I'm blanking out her name. U.S. Women's National Team player. Plays multiple positions.
I know who you're talking about.
It's
She's
going.
retired.
It's it's gonna hurt my mind. Not Rose Lavelle. It's what's her name? What's her name?
I know who you're talking about.
Uh, okay. Once you look for the name, like so almost three key players that left. And of course, you know, so it's still and of course other departures as well.
Mhm.
Lynn Williams or Lynn by the YOLO left as well. So
Yeah.
so it's like as her as well, and
Mhm.
so it's a lot of departures. So like of course they had good signings. Of course they have still have their goalkeeper. You still have Tina Davison. You still have Emily Sonnen, but
Mhm.
it has weakened down a bit. So of course you will still see a huge, like not maybe a huge downgrade, but you still see the effect on the team. Crystal Dunn, that was the name I was looking for.
Crystal Dunn, yeah.
Crystal Dunn, yeah, that was like it was killing me. Crystal Dunn, yeah. So a lot of players left,
Mhm.
so you imagine a lot of not just regular players, a lot of star players left.
Yeah.
And so, but the Dash can, I would say the Dash could upset them. Of course, like the homecoming again of Juan Carlos Amros, still a top coach. I think the Dash too has a good relationship. Fans has a real because of course he was the coach that brought them the Dash to the first playoff game.
Yeah.
in their history. I think we'll appreciate him as a coach for doing that to the team, despite the craziness that was happening. But I think the team, looking at the team's paper on paper, like you said, Gotham should win. But just the way how the teams are performing, the Dash should easily take this.
Mhm.
But games are not played on paper; they're played on the pitch. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So your predictions, sticking with 2-0, who will
I'm
score their 2 goals?
Who's gonna score? I think Yaz is getting her first this season. I think Yaz is getting her first. I easily see her getting a diagonal run behind Gotham's line and skipping it past Berger and getting that goal. I want to give it to Maggie, but I can't. First favorite. I think Yaz is getting one, and I think Avery's also gonna get her first.
All right.
I think I think we've seen a lot of defenders and a lot of fullbacks get goals in under this new dash system, and I think that's going to continue. Um, I feel like there will also be a big chance for like a penalty. I mean, Gotham has conceded 3 goals again in in 2 games, and they didn't play convincing either one. Their game against Seattle Reign, just not convincing. It was a draw, so I mean it was an
Mhm.
okay way to start the season, but they completely fell apart against Orlando. Um, they conceded a home goal in the second minute, and I think by that point everyone in the stadium knew that this Orlando team were going to have Gotham's number.
Mhm.
And a quote that I was told by a friend of mine is Gotham normally were the team to punch harder. Now they're the ones to stay down. I don't know how much that's going to stick, but I think that's a type of team that concedes goals to defenders. So I think it's going to be Avery.
Yeah. So it's gonna be hard to see who will score. I think, but I'm going with a 3-1. I'm going for a
3-1?
3-1. Reason why. I think the the defense will mature.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and also the connected passes and hopefully finishing can
Mm-hmm.
be more fluid now
Mm-hmm.
with the actual third game back on in the season. So I do see them goals. I do see the revenge tour
Mm-hmm.
of Yasmin Ryan and
That would be
Delaney
so awesome.
Sheehan as well. They're both, imagine them
Yeah.
both two ex Gotham players get it. And I want Maggie to continue scoring.
I
Reason
okay. I
reason
love
why
nothing more.
reason why okay, the Golden Boot race, okay, it's
Yeah.
not much, 2 games. But Maggie is right now third place in the Golden Boot race.
I should
Tied
have stuck to my gut and said
tied,
Maggie.
tied with Barbara Banda and Shawinga. That's
That's
crazy.
insane.
That's
That's
crazy.
insane.
A rookie, a midfield rookie to be tied with Barbara Banda and Shawinga at this point in the season. Okay, that's crazy. So
We're 2 games in, but this is also at any point in the season a rookie equaling the likes of Barbara Banda. That's insane. A rookie midfielder. That's even crazier. I
yeah,
want to say Maggie. I don't think she's gonna score, but the smile will be like this if she scores.
yeah. It- and then my question is for you: you think it's
Hmm.
time for her to start, or
Yes,
still coming off the
yes.
bench?
No, I think it's absolutely time for her to start. I think you either start all 3 of them, or honestly, I haven't really been convinced by Sophie Schmidt this season. I mean, that's kind of been like a trend that we've seen for the past couple of
Hmm.
years, ever since that playoff year. But when you have a player like Maggie Graham, I think you have to start her.
Hmm.
I think you have to start her.
I think Sophie. I think looking at her ratings and her performance, they've been solid. They've been average. They've
They've
been
been
average,
average.
average.
Uh-huh.
which for a player for who playing in the sixth role or the
Mhm.
deep player, that's quite sort of what you want. You want to do their job, but not you know, over succeed. Just don't make too many mistakes. Keep the ball moving, retrieve the ball, and keep it. And that's what she did. But I think you see the uptick when she's substitute for Maggie. It's always her. Maggie always takes her position, and it's just.
Always.
But I think you also had to think about as well. Would you lose? Maggie, even though Maggie's box to box, she would do both defensive and
Mhm.
and the attack and the defense. But I think you just gain more attacking than defense, which is
Yeah,
not a bad thing. Which is not a bad thing. A good defense is always attacking, but
that's true. But
but
you also have to watch out considering, yeah, you make a good point because I mean, this is a Gotham team that still has Esther Gonzalez
yes,
and a ball that will normally be intercepted by a Sophie Schmidt who has that experience, who has that technical knowledge and technical feel of the game of what an NWSL veteran has will stop that ball. But Maggie, I not saying that she can't do it. I'm just saying, does she have that veteran experience to be in those positions to stop it? I don't know. So I think you do make a good point about the loss of defensive prowess when you lose Sophie. But I think I also agree with you that the best way to defend is by scoring more goals. And if Maggie gets you more goals and Maggie will also get me a steak dinner, then then because Theo said it. If it's Maggie, it's two steak dinners.
yeah, yeah,
If
he did.
so, if we get more offense and I get two steak dinners from Maggie starting, then so be it. I mean, I will die
Yeah,
a happy man.
you know, I think so too. I think it's her time to start ahead of Sophie. But if you still want that, it's interesting. I think it just came up to my head. We haven't seen Sarah Putigam, who usually takes his Sophie spot,
Yeah.
as a defensive holder. She hasn't started this past two games as
Hmm.
well, or if you substitute it in. But also, we still haven't seen Westfall. She
Hmm.
hasn't start or subbed in it for that or dash debut as well. So it's two defensive players that can play in the six or in the back line. I think something to think about, but I think it's gonna change a lot with if Rebecca comes in. But
Hmm.
even she could play in the sixth spot.
Yeah.
So
Do you think she's gonna get some minutes against Gotham? That's my question to you. Do you think she's gonna get
I
even
don't
a last minute debut?
I don't think she will make an appearance. Usually, players like her. I remember like players like her, Sarah Putigam, Romana Bachman, Tarsiani. Will take about 3 to 4 weeks for them to come in.
Hmm.
Just because USA and immigration laws.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it takes a while for them to come in. But I think we might see them either during the summer or even this the summer tournament or summer games that we have.
Hmm.
Get her minutes so that she could be up for the second half of the season.
Hmm.
But I think right now we just trust the players that we have, and I think
Also, congratulations to Ramona for having uh, announced that she's having a boy. If I
boy,
remember correctly, it was
yeah,
announced on Instagram, and you mentioned Ramona, so I thought about it, and I was like, congratulations to Ramona Blackman for
yeah.
having another member of the Dash family.
Well, the Dynamo family, because it looks like all the dash players are having all boys. So
The next gen right there.
the next gen of Dynamo players at the moment, but it's good. So as we mentioned before, so this will be the team. The deadline has closed, trade has closed. So this is the dash team that we'll have
Hmm.
until the second transfer window, which I'm pretty excited about. So
Hmm.
it's a good basis. It's a good solid, and hopefully this will be enough to beat not just only Gotham this weekend, but very other team. I think the best. we'll touch about this later in future podcasts, but I think the biggest test will be either the as you say with Gotham, but with KC and with
Mhm.
Orlando to see how this team can step up against
Yeah,
those teams. I think and Praspire will get whooped badly,
yeah,
but I think now it's a little bit different. But we have
yeah,
to see. We have to see. You know, we're
yeah.
taking it game by game. The hype is
The
coming.
hype.
The hype.
We're getting hype. We're getting excited. I will tell
So
you guys this. I will tell you guys this. If we beat, if we beat Orlando, I will get the new Dash jersey. I don't care how much money I will have to spend on it, but I will get the Maggie Graham Dash jersey if we win that game.
that game's in June 7th.
So stay hype, people. Stay hype, people. And I will probably be at that game. So
Well, that'll be in Orlando. That'll be in Orlando though.
damn it, dang it. Okay.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't play. We don't play. Here in Houston until the October 3rd.
that's when I'm up here. Okay, that's great.
Yeah. And so, but it's really interesting. So we'll see. And I think this. But we'll get to it later. But I think the second half of the schedule is much harder because our
Oh yeah,
last games is Orlando, Angel City, Kansas, and Portland. Portland
yeah.
are not doing good, but I think
They're always tough.
yeah, they're always too tough. But I think Orlando and KC as your last matches
Yeah.
can either dent your way to playoffs or not.
But
So
I will stick to my claim. If we beat Orlando in that June 7th match, I will get a Maggie Graham Dash jersey.
uh, we'll remind you. We have the receipts.
We
We
have
have
the
the receipts.
receipts. There went Rudy with the receipts of my first ever press conference question. That was that was fun.
Yeah, man. You just don't worry, man. He's gonna always show the receipts. So don't worry, don't worry. But but thank you, Diego, for come hopping up on again for
Always
another
happy to.
edition.
Always happy to.
All right, everyone. Thank you for staying with us with the Orange and Blueprints podcast on the biocitysoccer.net. You always reach us at biocitysoccer.net or are on our X, Instagram, or YouTube. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, Ugly Guppy and We Got Soccer. So if you're looking up for jerseys, go to hit up We Got Soccer and also Elotes Bravos as well. We go to games as well. But thank you all. This has been another episode of the Orange and Blue Press podcast. Hopefully next week we can recap. Hopefully a dash win and looking more into the international games. All right. See you soon. Take care.
See you guys.